There are 3 layers of psychological hacks on YouTube that you need to attract viewers and subscribers. And if you're missing any of those layers, your channel simply won't make it. And the first layer you need is a killer idea using dark psychology. One of the most effective approaches to come up with a killer idea is to either target a pain point of your audience or come up with something that will create a burning curiosity for them to click. If you manage to effectively communicate a problem in the idea of your video, your target viewers that are suffering from that problem will instantly be drawn in. For example, finance YouTubers repeatedly remind their viewers of the pain they might feel living paycheck to paycheck, which sets up an audience to crave the solution that is about to be offered. But they don't even stop there. One sneaky way to supercharge these emotions is to contrast something negative with something positive and hopeful. The way this would work is after describing the pain of living paycheck to paycheck, the audience would then be presented with something that they desire, such as having more free time and money to enjoy traveling and spending time with loved ones, owning a property and not having to worry about mortgage payments anymore, and so on. This contrast of pain and desire is something that really gets people fired up. And speaking of desire, when an idea format comes in the form of a challenge video, usually set within a certain time frame, this plants the idea of reward and transformation in your viewers' minds. An example of this would be a body transformation video in the fitness niche, such as this 100 days transformation video. This thumbnail is a great one because you have a clear idea of the transformation the creator is aiming for through the anime character here, but we're left wondering if he managed to pull it off. 100 days is also a realistic time frame that feels achievable for most people looking to get into better shape. But I can't speak about ideation without talking about our next hack, which is the curiosity gap. This involves putting forward a question or mystery that the viewer absolutely must find an answer to. One of the best examples of this on YouTube is the channel Veritasium. Their video ideas often pose an interesting question or a myth-busting approach, which is only resolved by watching the video. You see, when presenting an idea on YouTube, you always want to be one step away from obvious and find ways to present an idea from a unique angle. This means that your content does feel fresh and new, but at the core of your content is an idea that your audiences still care about. But we can't talk about dark psychology hacks without talking about emotional manipulation. Weaponizing emotional triggers such as fear, anger, or shock is one of the most common ways to grab people's attention on YouTube. And people's reactions to this are basically involuntary. Scientific studies show that fear is an incredibly powerful tool for engagement. And if seeing your content puts your viewers in a state of threat or urgency, people will become fixated. Ideas framed around this approach include videos such as the shocking truth about EV fires you need to know, or something more subtle like, this is what always happens before a financial crisis. But there's an approach that actually allows other people to do most of the work for you, and it's called trend hacking. When you have a subject that's blowing up all over social media, if you make a video that has a unique spin on that topic, this is really going to attract interest. This works best when, number 1, the trending topic is something you actually have a genuine interest in, and number 2, because of this interest, you're able to refine the unique spin with your own stories and experience. Whenever creating content for YouTube, you always want to find this balance between what you're doing, bouncing between topics you have an actual interest in, but at the same time, there's a market for them there. Viewers are interested in watching it. And if you're ever wondering how to identify winning ideas, one of the best ways to do this is research overperforming videos across the platform that tend to use this combination of a unique spin combined with an idea that people care about. To do this, you can either spend hours researching and kind of building your own database of these ideas, or you can use a tool like 1 of 10 where you can come up with viral ideas in seconds. If you're interested, you can click the link in the description and use code T50 for 50% off today. The first layer created killer ideas using dark psychology. Now, the second layer is forcing viewers to click even if it's against their will. Okay, not really forcing, but we are using some sneaky psychological tricks to get people to click. 2 of the most common elements that are exploited on YouTube are curiosity and intrigue. Great titles are really not about spelling everything out. Rather, they withhold just about enough information to keep you curious. A great example of this is the title format, I tried thing for 30 days. Here's what happened. The here's what happened hints at a result, but we don't know if that result is positive or negative. It's that curiosity that gets us to click, and it shows that you don't have to over-exaggerate too much or lie to get people to watch your content. Now, if I saw you walking down the street and I wanted to get your attention, the best way I could do that is call your name, right? Well, the closest to that on YouTube is a direct call out to your audience. This would be something along the lines of, if you have less than £10,000 in savings, watch this video. When you create a criteria that not only matches your target audience, but is also quite wide-reaching, this has a real potential to pull in views. Crafting intriguing titles is an amazing way to get people's attention in the era of short attention spans. But it's not the only way, and our next hack goes even further. Thumbnails are the visual element to your packaging that can tap into an instant emotional response, and this is where more dark psychology comes into play. High contrast designs, a bright subject on a dark background or vice versa can make an image really pop. Bright colors such as yellow, orange, and currently the signature red that you see everywhere also work incredibly well drawing people's attention to words or certain elements. Now, you might not be overly keen on the really exaggerated, over-the-top expressions that you might see on thumbnails in entertainment, but thumbnails with faces showing some form of emotion actually trigger an emotional response in viewers too. Seeing someone up or down simply forces us to ask the question of, what's going on here? As for the text in your thumbnail, this is a moment where you actually need to take a pause and reflect on the title to come up with something short and punchy that reinforces the curiosity that we've set up in the title. Too many words or words that are too long are really easy to ignore, but short phrases such as, "I wish I knew," "You have no time left," and "everyone should know this" can immediately stand out and generate more questions in your viewer's mind. Basically, your thumbnails need to be as simple and clear as possible. Remember that when your viewers are browsing YouTube, they're only going to be glancing at all the videos being thrown at them, and it's your job to stand out. But having a good thumbnail isn't even enough to get that click sometimes, and many of the top YouTubers on the platform use another psychological hack to get people to click, and that's something called an open loop. If you show a climactic moment from your video without context, with the title setting up the scenario, this will result in the viewer's mind itching to know what has happened or will happen next. What this does is exploit our need for completion. This can work in transformation videos where you can see some form of transformation that has occurred, but you're left wondering how they did it. Or more story-based videos where a visual and title that builds a lot of tension simply hooks viewers into finding out what will happen. Now, bear in mind when using these hacks, there are some things that you really want to avoid or you're at risk of really annoying your viewers. Everyone hates it when you put something in your title or your thumbnail that isn't delivered in the video, so don't clickbait your viewers into watching something that isn't rewarding them. Instead, one approach is to frame a video in a dramatic way using emotional language such as castor oil's shocking secrets that Big Pharma doesn't want you to know. Remember that your packaging can be a bit dramatic and even over-exaggerate a little bit what you're speaking about, but as long as the core premise of the video is fulfilled, your viewers will be satisfied. The psychology is clear. If you create curiosity and intrigue, you get the clicks. But what happens when your viewer does click on your video? The final layer of dark psychology you need to be using comes in the form of editing. I'm sure many of you have heard the term retention editing, as it's become kind of like a speciality on YouTube. But this doesn't always mean fast pacing, constant cuts, subtitles, and special effects everywhere. So what approaches can you experiment with to keep your viewers watching? Well, first of all, one of the first psychological tactics YouTubers use is a hook in the introduction of the video. But this can also be enforced with visual hooks that confirm expectations the viewer might have from clicking your title and thumbnail. What you need to ask yourself is, if I saw this title and thumbnail, what expectations would I have when I click on the video? And if the video started the way my video has, would I still want to watch or click off? To get off with a great start with your viewers, you want to jump into high value content as quickly as possible and really reinforce in your viewers' mind what's coming. In education, this could come in the form of getting to the first tip or technique without delay. And in entertainment, you might tease a big payoff or an epic moment coming up in the video. If you don't capture your viewers in those first few moments, they'll just leave. But a good hook is only the first step to keeping viewers around. The next step involves hacking people's attention with something called pattern interruption. Our brains are programmed to constantly pay attention to any changes in our environment, so we can understand as quickly as possible if something happening is good or bad for us. When a change in our environment happens, it really kind of alerts our brain. In the world of YouTube, this translates to cutting out anything that would be considered dead space in your video. This would be information or scenes that are simply boring or not adding any value to your content. Many pro YouTubers, including Mr. Beast himself, even cut their videos after uploading with the YouTube editor to improve their retention by as little as 1 or 2%. Entertaining visuals such as camera movement, animations that accurately illustrate what you're saying, B-roll and on-screen text are also forms of pattern interruption that stimulate viewers. But the final unseen hack in your editing is your use of sound that can be used to manipulate the emotions of your audience. This works particularly well if you build up tension with something that sounds a bit more dark, and then relieve your audience with a resolution featuring a happier soundtrack. But there's a problem with just speaking about like good visuals and well thought through audio, because there are so many videos that still do really well that are lacking these elements, right? Well, that's where our next powerful hack comes in, and it's all about storytelling. You see, we're all naturally wired to follow stories that have a beginning, some kind of conflict, and then a resolution. So it's no surprise that videos following this format do really well. For example, let's take a look at Mike Shake's insanely popular I Built series. His videos always feature problems and experiments gone wrong before he manages to create the final product. When a story has conflict, this creates tension and makes a viewer want to find out how that conflict will be resolved. But there's a big problem talking about all of these retention tactics when at the end of the day, the truly high audience retention comes from a deep connection with your audience. And a way to build this is to simply be authentic with your content. Use those human moments of happiness, despair, wins and losses to become more relatable, turning a cold audience into something that's a bit warmer. Sometimes when you're making a video, you also don't want to just keep it high speed and high pace the whole way through. Sometimes you want to have a little moment of pause to allow your viewers to digest what your video is teaching them. Or for example, like a micro recap in educational content. While mastering the art of dark psychology will help your channel grow, I know from my own experience that writing hooks for YouTube videos can be really difficult even if you do understand the psychology of your audience. So if you want a video on hooks and how to keep people watching from the start all the way to the end, you can click this video here.